Are there benefits to playing video games? There are many different things that are out there for you to learn and get an education from. One thing that can be used to get an education, or at least a tool that can be used, are video games. There are different video games out there for people to play. Children play video games from as early as 2, and there are even adults playing video games. There are educational benefits to playing video games, depending upon what kind of video game you're playing. There are different video games out there for you to play. Some are on the computer, some are on handheld devices, some are on cell phones. Some are even as old as the Atari video games that have benefits to them. One benefit of playing video games is hand-eye coordination. This is something that has been studied by many different people, many different groups and organizations on whether or not this is actually accurate, and they have found that there are very many benefits to it. When I was growing up, my brothers played video games, and they developed a lot better hand-eye coordination than I did because I didn't play them as often as they did. So this is something that I know to be true. Another thing that can come from playing video games for children is they can learn problem solving skills and creativity. Some of the video games that are out there, like Mario and stuff like that, you take and you have to go through this world and you have to solve the problem of how are you going to get through this world to save the princess. There are different obstacles, and the way for you to get through the game and going through those obstacles encourages problem solving. You can't just run through the game and expect not to run into these obstacles. So you have to actually think on how you're going to solve this problem, how you're going to get around the obstacles. It also encourages creativity because you can, on some video games, actually build your own little world for you to actually interact in. One example would be Minecraft. Minecraft is one that is on the computer. It's also on different consoles and even on mobile devices. On Minecraft, you actually can build your own little world. You have to defeat little zombies. You have what they call player versus player, where you actually go up against other players and have to solve problems on how to defeat those other players. And that will also encourage your creativity on creating these worlds. Another thing that could come from playing video games, certain video games actually improve typing proficiency. Typing proficiency is something that is needed on everybody's life when they enter into the working world. Most office positions, when you're actually applying for them, are asking what your typing proficiency is. How many words per minute can you type? When you are playing video games that have chat rooms and stuff like that, you are actually typing out your responses to other players. In doing this, you actually have to think about what you are typing, and you become more proficient in typing your message. Video games can also increase social skills. When you are playing a video game against other players, it's not usually a computer, it's usually another person. You are interacting with other people in these video games. This is a social skill. You need to be able to interact and not be rude You need to be able to interact and actually create friendships with some of these other people that are out there playing the video games. This friendship that you create with these people will actually benefit you in the video game for the most part. You can team up and actually defeat other players on the player versus player type games. You can create bigger worlds in like Minecraft. This is just one way that you can develop your social skills. Some video games that are out there for the younger children are on handheld devices and some computers. Um, one of the big programs out there right now are Leapfrog. These kind of games actually encourage communication skills, increases your vocabulary. It also can increase your math skills, and it teaches many different skills to children through different layouts of the games. It also gives them different scenarios on how they can play the games. One game that my children play on their Leap Pad, which is by Leapfrog, is a game called Spurgle. I'm not exactly sure how it's pronounced. But basically, it teaches them science. It teaches them about the phases of water. They have to go take this water drop through this tunnel, and sometimes they have to change it to steam. And they have to know in order to change it to steam to go through this vent, they have to increase the temperature. That is teaching them about the life cycle of water. They also sometimes have to change it to ice. This is something that just reinforces what they are learning in school. There are some video games out there that also inspire children and people to have an interest in history and culture. Some video games that are out there right now are about the culture and the history of castles and the way it was in the medieval times and how the things actually happened back then. Uh, some games you actually have to create your own little world and your own little fortress to keep out others from defeating your fortress during the medieval times. There's other different cultures that are out there that are also in these video games. There are video games out now um, that came out within the last 5 years or so, like the Wii by Nintendo and the Kinect by Xbox. Those are video games that encourage physical exercise. You have to actually physically move in order to make these video games work. Um, when the Wii came out, it usually comes out with a sports package. Um, my family has that, and we actually love to play the bowling game and the tennis game and all different games out there. You have to physically move in order to play these games. You can't just sit there and expect to be able to play these video games because it won't work. You can't throw the ball down the alley if you don't actually move. Another benefit of video games is friendly competition. With a lot of video games, you're playing against other people. You are learning to play competitively against these other people. Without video games, many people don't learn to compete friendly. They just compete and they become poor sports, which is not the best way to be. You also learn leadership skills. You have to um, sometimes lead a team in battle when you're playing some of these video games, especially if it's a player versus player video game. You group together with these other players into this battle. There are many benefits and educational benefits to video games. not all video games are negative, and I do believe that there are even more positives to video games than there are negative. I hope that this has explained a lot about video games and that you will now reconsider if you were thinking that the video games were all negative and that there are actual positive aspects to it. Thank you.